Ugh, I've got too many bills.
If you need funds, you can apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and have the money in your account as soon as the same business day.
Okay, got it. Applying now.
They've been helping hardworking people cover emergency expenses since 2004.
Hey, look, I got it.
You've got this.
When you need money fast, be the hero. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times. See cashnetusa.com for more details.
Charlie Heller is the CIA's most brilliant computer analyst, whose life is turned upside down when his wife is murdered in a terrorist attack. Wrought with grief, Charlie decides her killers must pay. Without any field experience, Charlie must trek the globe and use his biggest weapon, his intelligence, to enact his revenge. Because the most unexpected threat is an amateur. Starring Academy Award winner Rami Malek and Academy Award nominee Lawrence Fishburne, The Amateur, rated PG-13. Only in theaters and IMAX April 11th.
For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Heather Sprinkle Cook of Sycamore, Illinois. Heather will get a marathon decal showing she watched 26.2 hours of her favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Sonari Glinton. And these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are the Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent, SVU, or Original Recipe. And today we're looking at Law & Order, Season 7, Episode 5, Corruption.
And Detective Briscoe did as you instructed?
Yes. Detective Briscoe took the drugs. I know, because he gave me half.
Joining me to do just that is true crime author and host of Crime Writers On and Netflix's You Can't Make This Up podcasts. It's Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Kevin.
And rounding out our panel is our very special guest, broadcaster, podcaster, and Substack dispatcher, Sonari Glinton. Hello, Sonari.
Hello, it's good to be with you.
Yeah, folks know you from your reporting on NPR, Forbes, Slate, and your true crime podcast, Shattering the System, but I also know that you're an aficionado of jazz music. So the Law & Order theme has that syncopated beat. It's got that electric piano and clarinet. And how would you rate the jazz appeal of the theme song?
The jazz appeal. I mean, you know what's funny is like almost every song is either before like 1990 is either jazz or big band if you like it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little gospel thrown in for Good Times and the Jeffersons. But I would have never thought of that as being jazz, but I guess it is. Right? I hadn't, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. They're actors on this show.
Yeah, right.
like they thought about it. They thought about this.
Yeah. So in season 20, Lieutenant Van Buren took medical marijuana while she was fighting cervical cancer. I'm wondering, which jazz artist do you think she listened to while she was getting baked?
Funny thing, in my most recent Substack, S.C. Patha Murkison, who is from Detroit, talked about her Detroit roots. And I would think that she would be down with a Detroit jazz artist, right? So let me think of Alice Coltrane. Oh, no, Tommy Flanagan. Tommy Flanagan.
Okay.
Is one of my favorites. He's a piano player. He backed up Ella Fitzgerald. He left Ella. And when I was at NPR, we loved to use him as like bumpers at the end of a segment. So I'm going to say that she listened to some Tommy Flanagan trio or Ella singing with Tommy Flanagan.
Yeah, and here's who I think who loves what jazz musicians on Law & Order. I think Briscoe listens to Charlie Parker because he likes some bebop. And McCoy's a little more cerebral. He likes looking at things from like different angles, so he really appreciates Thelonious Monk. And I think Schiff is like totally a Billie Holiday kind of guy. And lastly, Serena Sutherland is all in on Kenny G.
That's
So, Sonari, of all the Law & Order franchises, which two cops are your favorite detective team?
Favorite Law and Order detective team.
Briscoe and Green.
Mm-hmm.
Good pick.
It's like the father-son thing. They both have addictions. One is hidden. One's not so hidden. And one is dealing with the addiction. The other, not so much. Right? I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a Broadway fan. So I saw Rent. That's like one of them.
Oh, sure.
Right? So I saw Jesse Martin in the early 90s in Rent. And then if my memory serves me correctly, Jerry Orbach. He was in a reproduction of Guys and Dolls, which had Faith Prince, which also had Ernie Sabella, who was in The Lion King, and Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
So it's like you saw this show, and they're like, everybody who was in this show became like a gigantic, we're just going to go from Guys and Dolls to movie and TV startup.
Yep.
Yeah, sit down, you're rocking the boat.
I have watched Jerry Orbach's performance of Be Our Guest on the Oscars because he played Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast. I've watched that video, which on YouTube, like 150 times. It's one of my all-time favorite television performances. It's amazing.
And Sonari, who is your favorite prosecutorial team?
Favorite Law and Order District Attorney Prosecutorial Team.
I think the one who quit, or the one who said, is it because I'm a lesbian, the blonde one?
Is this because I'm a lesbian?
Thank you.
Serena Sutherland, Kenny G enthusiast, yes. All right, let's take a look at the first half of this episode. Law & Order Season 7, Episode 5, Corruption. Detectives Briscoe and Curtis team up with veteran Lieutenant John Flynn and his men on an undercover drug sting. But when Lenny has his back turned, Flynn shoots the dealer. So before IAB can question them, Flynn insists the cops all get their story straight.
About seeing him reach. Was that a yes or a no?
I saw movement. I can't tell what it was.
Lenny, do us all a favor. Tell your partner here how things are done.
Briscoe backs his old friend's claim that Ruben Morales was reaching, but Curtis says that he was too far away to verify that. Right here's Morales worked for kingpin Hector Garcia. Plus, Garcia had twice been arrested by Flynn and twice let go. Drug mule and salsa dancer Richie Morales says his brother made a deal to give up Garcia, and now there's a hit out on both of them. Curtis goes to Briscoe with suspicions Flynn's sting was just a setup, but his partner says, hey, maybe let it slide? Then he finds out that Garcia's 2 arrests were dropped because the drug evidence was stolen from the police locker. Flynn insists on meeting with Curtis to tell him to keep his nose out of his business. Now Briscoe is suspicious and learns Morales wasn't the original target of the sting. Flynn's partner admits that he'd been getting dirty money, courtesy of Hector Garcia, who needed Morales eliminated. ADA Jamie Ross orders IAB to arrest Flynn for murder. Okay, so this begins with Briscoe and some other guys in a car before a sting operation, and Briscoe tests his microphone.
Audio check.
1, 2, 3. And then Curtis is down the road in a box truck, and he gives the very subtle flashing the headlights twice. I mean, why not just honk the horn for fuck's sake at that point? 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Sibilance. Yeah. And so Flynn and Briscoe are like buying drugs from this dealer, and they approach him on this darkened street, still dressed like cops. Mm-hmm. So was Briscoe like, hey, man, what's our cover story? We're just cops? Okay, perfect, because I brought my cop disguise.
Do you pay attention to things like the clothing in Law and Order, Sonari?
Yeah, I like especially Dennis Farina.
Dennis
Farina. Yeah, who is a Chicago cop and feels like the embodiment of a Chicago cop. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I will look at him and be like, is that a Brioni suit? Is that a blah, blah, blah? Like, why is he like, and I like long before, Dennis reminds me of like a jazz DJ. Briscoe, I noticed that the colors, like they seemed to dress him like the equivalent of Jose Bank or something like that. And then the other characters where he's like, is Jesse Barton wearing Boss?
Yeah, it's funny how they're like trying to hint that maybe Briscoe is corrupt. Meantime, you got Fontana wearing like the camel coat. He's passing out his walking around money. Yeah. It's like, all right.
He like pulls out they show these guys where he put out a wad and it's like what police officer? I mean, but that's what I think you're supposed to be thinking. You're supposed to be going through your head thinking about those
He's got family money, is apparently what they say. So Curtis, who loves a reason to express his moral superiority, looks for Ruben's brother, Richie. And so he's not in his apartment, so he asks the neighbor where he is, and she only speaks Spanish, and so her little son comes out and translates.
What about Richie Morales? You seen him around here today?
But you guys came looking for him yesterday.
What kind of guys?
White guys. They said they were cops, but they didn't look slick like you. They dressed down, wearing jeans and cowboy boots.
Mm-hmm. You know where Richie works?
I think he's a dancer, singer, or something. I saw him in his costume.
He's got a clue for Curtis as where Richie might be. He turns over a matchbook for a salsa dancing club that Richie frequents. Sonari, Richie gave a 10-year-old kid a book of matches?
Oh my God, that is like, there's something like extra special about that episode when he's like, whether he's talking about his kid, like he doesn't see the shooting happen. Right. We know that. We'll find out later. All of these things, like in the beginning of an episode, can beggar belief, right? It's the John Mulaney joke. It's like that beggars belief. Even 20 years ago, you're like, what are you doing with this kid?
I have a question for you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Watching like Law and Order when you were young, did you think that every time you went to a restaurant and they had matchbooks, you were supposed to take one? Because I certainly did. I would be I don't smoke, but I would be like, ooh, matchbooks. I'm supposed to have this so that people will know where I was. I don't know. I just thought because everyone always had them that you were supposed to take them.
Look, if that kid burnt down that apartment and Richie lost all of his belongings, he had it coming. He had nobody to blame but himself.
For giving a child a matchbook.
Yeah. I mean, how did that start? He comes to him, he's like, hey, mister, I want to start smoking. Can you hook me up?
Well, now it's funny when you go to a place and you're like, why do you have matches? I mean, but that's a thing that's now. Yeah. People still print matchbooks and you're like, what a great advertisement though. I mean, I remember folks used to have, my godparents had a big bowl of matchbooks.
Yeah.
A collection.
Yeah, my dad collected match, but you didn't smoke. But you're right, it's the same thing. You're like, oh,
respiratory therapist.
This is pretty. This one's blue with gold lame. Yeah, whatever. It's the places you've been. So I will say there's a lot of sexual harassment in this episode.
You like salsa?
I'm more of a cumbia man.
I'd like to see that.
Well, I'll bring my wife next time. We'll give you a demonstration.
You're married. That's too bad.
I wonder how many times in this TV series has Curtis had to mention to a woman that he's married?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time, yes.
Yeah,
it comes up over and over and over again. My wife, my wife, my wife. Yes. Doesn't stop him from macking with Jennifer Garner later, but...
Well, I mean, we know that's a turning point in the series.
But, I mean, he is just so unbelievably attractive.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, you're like, you've been married for how long? What? There have been few people more attractive, in my opinion, on a regular recurring basis on television.
That's a bold statement.
That is.
I guess that's why Julia Roberts went for him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sonari, can I introduce you to Elena De La Garza?
She's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But Jesse L. Martin.
Gorgeous.
You've established that, Rebecca.
I have.
Yeah. So Curtis is able to find Richie's new apartment, and there's no place to hide, so Ray finds him hiding in the closet.
There it is.
So where's Ruben? How come he didn't come by last night?
Richie, your brother's dead.
Oh, man, he got him. He got Ruben. Now he's gonna kill me, man.
Hold on a minute. Who got him?
But this comes after, he's gone to see some lawyers, some cops. He's gone to a salsa club. How does he have all this time on his hands in the workday?
Who?
Curtis. Right? He's supposed to what are you investigating here?
He's investigating a thing that the police are not investigating. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
He's wasting time.
Yeah. Van Buren, where the fuck is everybody?
What police officer has even a second of extra time? I mean, that's for real. I mean, the paperwork is backed up. There is no free time. There is no unaccounted for hours in a major American police force, that's again funny.
Now, Curtis was the first character on Law & Order that carried a cell phone
Really?
With him. Yeah, he was like, that was part of it. He was like
He was modern.
He was modern, right? He was modern.
He was in touch.
Oh, and I remember he's the one who introduces us to email. He's like, oh, let's see it. Let's see. Like, oh, you can just look that up on the computer? Really? And like,
I'm glad, though, that they didn't think to call Curtis's cell phone and be like, well, where are you? I'm in a salsa club. We have a couple of Hey, It's That Guys.
Hey, it's that guy.
Do you know who is playing Lieutenant John Flynn?
That guy who looks like he smells like cigarettes?
This nosing around is for what purpose?
I don't report to you.
The point being, it stops now. Or should I make you regret your career choice?
I don't know who that is.
That's the late actor Kevin Conway. 3 Law & Order appearances. He was also the commanding officer for Benjamin Bratt and Michael Keaton in the movie One Good Cop. And I see how I've named 3 of them there, so you can guess which one was the good one.
Not him, probably.
Probably not him. He's best known as the control voice for the science fiction anthology series The Outer Limits. You remember that one?
Sort of.
I remember the show. Yeah.
Yeah, he did the 1995 reboot of that 60s show. It had the famous opening lines, "There's nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We control the horizontal and the vertical."
Is it because of his gravelly thing?
Yes. He also did a lot of voice work too. The Outer Limits was a bit like The Twilight Zone, but more, like I said, focused strictly on science fiction. One famous episode was one where the Earth was dying and artificial intelligence was fighting with insane leaders to stop Armageddon, or as I call it, Wednesday. Did you recognize the actor playing former prosecutor Milton Corboy?
The charges were dropped because the evidence disappeared. No evidence, no case.
Disappeared how?
Stolen. Right out of the property room in the 116. One day it's there, next day it's not.
Okay, that's Jack Merrill, 3 Law & Order appearances. In this show, he's still going by his birth name, Merrill Holtzman, but he changed it later to Jack Merrill because casting directors were misgendering him. He would show up at auditions and they thought Merrill was a woman, so it was either change name or Tootsie.
Yeah.
Sonari, are you a fan of baseball at all?
I'm a huge fan of my Los Angeles Dodgers. I live in Shohei Ohtani'ville, which is called Los Angeles.
Well, here's why I bring it up. His father was the cigar-chomping Chicago sports writer Jerome Holtzman, who in 1959 invented a new statistic to pitching, the save. But Jack has the distinction of being one of only 2 men to survive being kidnapped by John Wayne Gacy.
Are you kidding?
Not kidding.
The actor that we saw in this show was kidnapped by John Wayne Gacy?
Yes, he was.
Wow.
Let me tell you the story. In 1978, Gacy picked him up when he was walking around. He drugged him with chloroform, handcuffed him, brought him back to that house, and then raped him for hours, right? Yeah. He says that Gacy got tired and discouraged and gave up and offered to give him a ride home. A couple of months later, Gacy was arrested.
Yeah.
Now, Jack did not go public at the time because he was in the closet and his father worked at this newspaper. And he didn't talk about it publicly until this October when his one-man show called The Save debuted in Venice Beach.
That's quite the double entendre that he's going to
wow.
say. Wow, that's insane. That would be the only thing I ever talked about if that were me. I'd be like, you're not going to believe what happened to me when I was young.
That's right.
I feel like a weird connection because my parents hid, as they well should have, Jeffrey Dahmer did kidnap people who look like me around the corner from like my friend's house.
Oh,
and so we
my
were very, it's like people in our neighborhood and like both those two things, because in my childhood brain, gay and Gacy were merged.
Oh.
And that crime is like, I'm a gay man, I should say. And like those two things merged together, like are just like an initial trauma because it's like, it's how it filters down to the schoolyard.
Yes.
Right.
And this poor guy, spent 40 something years trying to work this out. How sad that is.
It's so sad.
Well, we do have some repeat offenders.
We do?
Repeat offender.
Yeah, well, again, we see actor Kurt Acevedo playing literally in the closet brother, Richie Morales.
Fetal position in the closet.
There's payback, man.
He's in a million things like Arrow, 12 Monkeys, Fringe, Oz, and he was Lenny Briscoe's non-corrupt partner in Law & Order Trial by Jury. Until Jerry Orbach died 2 episodes into that series.
Yeah, I remember that.
We also, again, get to see Skip Sudduth as the IAB detective.
The way it goes is we ask the questions.
Third Watch.
Yeah, 6 seasons. He was Sully on Third Watch. And also returning is Nancy Tickerton.
He gave me an address to send his last check.
She was that salsa club hostess, but she also played Nick Amaro's mom on SVU. One mother that should have thrown herself down the stairs, but didn't.
I hate Amaro so much. That's a thing, Sonari. Amaro from SVU is my least favorite character in the history of television, and that is saying something. And did you catch that she had an accent at the beginning of that scene and didn't at the end?
No, okay.
It's worth going back and checking. It's pretty incredible.
Can you name the actor playing defense attorney Ed Richter?
If what Detective Edwards says were true, then it would make him an accomplice, meaning his testimony is worthless without corroboration.
That's Don Billett, 5 Law & Order appearances. He played Richter in Season 1, and by Season 12, Richter had become a judge. So keep failing upward, white men. Don was a corrupt detective whose corrupt partner was Jerry Orbach in the film Prince in the City.
What is up with Jerry Orbach playing so many cops?
We got all these corrupt cops playing other corrupt cops.
Wow.
I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
Look at him, right?
It's true. It'd be more unusual to play the uncorrupt cop, let's be real.
Yeah. But who will ever forget his role in the ABC After School Special, Have You Ever Been Ashamed of Your Parents?
No.
Yep. Here's the plot. A rich girl and a poor girl become friends. Don is the father of the poor girl and husband to Mrs. C herself, Marion Ross.
Oh, my God. This was a real after-school special?
Real after-school special.
Oh, my God. The Harlem Globetrotters make an appearance?
No, not in this one. Nope. That was a very special episode. Who's playing that full-time cop, part-time doorman, Kenny Edwards?
Before we got out there, he told me that he had to take care of something, and whatever happened to back his play.
That's Jeff Williams. He had an appearance in 35 different television shows, everything from Facts of Life in 1985 to Orange is the New Black. So he's been very busy, but who will ever forget his role in the ABC After School Special, A Desperate Exit? He played the classmate of a teen who died by suicide, played by Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Jesus Christ. The After School Special verse is wild.
or the After School Special verse and we don't have them as much anymore, but the TV movies.
Yes, the made-for-TV film.
Where you could just have a whole, like, where would Meredith Baxter Burney or Meredith Baxter be if she didn't have this whole career of television shows?
Hallmark Network, probably. Yeah. And we've got Hey, It's That Girl.
Hey, it's that girl.
Who is playing Briscoe's old belly mattress, Betty Abrams?
Oh, Kevin. Jesus Christ.
Oh, is that too rough? Too blue? Too blue?
That, I think, is how the other cops talk about it.
Okay,
sure.
right.
Jesus.
Lenny, one of those mornings after we were together, I remember going into the station house and hearing about that robbery from the property room. I want to tell the commission that you weren't there, that you couldn't have done it.
Her name is Caroline Cava. Small appearances in movies like Year of the Dragon, Snow Falling on Cedars, and as Tom Cruise's mother in Born on the 4th of July.
Wow.
But who will ever forget her role?
Oh, no.
In the ABC After School Special, It's Only Rock and Roll.
No.
Yeah. She plays the mother of Hallie, the lead singer of the teen rock band Halley's Comet. And Hallie is played by Gina from Sesame Street.
What?
Yes. Davy Jones from the Monkees plays a record executive who wants her to dress more provocatively and sex up the lyrics. That is until music teacher Carole King teaches her about artistic integrity.
Jesus.
It's fucking wild.
Why is Carole King working?
She was in an ABC After School, so she doesn't need to do anything.
Well, she's got a friend.
She can just float in her pool all the time. She'd be fine. Got to roll it back. Remember Carole King's Kennedy Center honors? Aretha Franklin came out, dropped her fur coat.
And she brought her purse. She had a purse and she put it right on the piano.
Probably had her money in it. Because
it's my other
walking around money.
It's my other favorite television performance of all time.
Oh no, yeah, that is she used to have to be paid in cash.
Incredible, incredible.
So in the ABC After School Special, it's only rock and roll. Hallie surprises everyone at the club by appearing, remember this is Gina from the Sesame Street, in a black bra and whipping out a new song with such shocking lyrics like, "My boyfriend respects me too much.
Oh.
And I need a real man to come through."
Oh, okay.
Now, by the time they get to the second verse, no kidding, the sheriff arrives at the club, lights and sirens going, and then goes up to the club owner with a signed arrest warrant and arrests him for promoting obscenity to minors.
This is like Footloose, but an after-school special.
Exactly. The sheriff he was just waiting for this. The LA Times actually reviewed this episode. They called it ambitious but clumsy. Prince Andrew said, "I wanted more Gina."
Oh, stop it.
So Briscoe isn't a dirty cop, but he sure seems comfortable around them.
Ray, I haven't seen any evidence.
What are you talking about, no evidence? We've made cases with less.
This is a cop.
Oh, so you're going to change the rules?
That's right. And you should know that.
Tell you what. Pretend like I never told you. Pretend like it never happened.
Because even Van Buren is like, "Hey, you sure you want to do this, Ray?" And Flynn's all like, "Hey, I want to meet with that partner of yours. Got to tell him how things are done." And so they meet in the middle of the day at the most dimly lit Beefsteak Charlie's in Manhattan. And while Flynn starts threatening them both, Curtis is all like, "I'm just going to sit here and eat this bowl of peanuts." Cracking the shell. "Yeah, tell me more about how you want to threaten me."
Is that how you knew it was Beefsteak Charlie's?
Well, I'm just...
Because I had those there.
I didn't think they had the ground round in Manhattan. So Briscoe wants to know more about why the target of the sting changed at the last minute to Morales. So he tracks down the original target, a street tough named Two-Tone, who has his two-tone braided hair. And Briscoe says,
Two-Tone, you stick around.
Do I know you?
Oh, yeah, we got the same hairdresser.
Good line.
Two-Tone looked like a Batman villain, in my opinion.
Batman villain?
Yeah.
He had the yellow eyebrow and the non-yellow eyebrow. He had the yellow hair, and then he was like a little Two-Face action.
Well, that's why I call him Two-Tone.
Yeah, I guess.
And he has a blast from the past here as he pressures Two-Tone about why the drug deal got called off.
Then Flynn calls and says that the deal is off with Collins.
Why?
Oh, like the psychic hotline? How should I know?
What am I, the psychic hotline? Gather around, children, and let me tell you about the 1990s and a little old lady called Miss Cleo. Now, Uri Harris.
You're giving Sonari horrible flashbacks.
No, I was worried that you're gonna. I worried we were gonna defame Dionne Warwick. Remember that?
No.
Remember that period?
She's a queen. She can do no wrong.
That was the Psychic Friends Network.
Thank you.
This is a whole other psychic network. Uri Harris put on a fake Jamaican accent and read you your fortune, kids, for $4.99 a minute.
Mm-hmm.
All you had to do was dial a 900 number and wait, you don't know what a 900 number is either?
Gather around. There were sex lines, there were psychic lines, there were astrology lines.
Just for $4.99 a minute. A slow talker will tell you exactly what you want to hear.
Oh, Lord. I remember my neighbor, Ralph, and I had in fifth grade or something, found a number. And we were just like, oh my God. We didn't know what any of it meant, right?
No.
And then I just remember the phone bill coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we get tired of it and stuff like that. But and Ralph we lived in apartment buildings, and he lived on the other, same floor across. So we had nighttime, we would be call each other on the phone. And I remember when we patched in the number, and I got in so much trouble.
Same.
Right? Because why are you calling the time was the other one. Because I would call it time.
This is proof that kids should never be punished for any crime because they have no sense of consequences. Because the phone bill comes every 4 weeks, right? Yeah. And we somehow thought calling a 1-800 number would be something we would get away with, even though we knew our parents were going to get a phone bill in 2, 3, or 4 weeks. right? Like, we didn't care. There was something wrong with the way our brains work. Did you ever do that, Kevin?
Nope. And I'm sorry, I never did a conference call with the 900 number and my friends.
Oh, okay.
It apparently seems like what you did.
Yeah.
I think it was a party line or something like that.
Party line,
was,
yeah.
Yeah.
So Collins is Flynn's actual partner in his day job, is working as a doorman.
Yes.
Because as he says, all the cops know about the happy hour specials at the hotel bar.
Mm-hmm.
And Collins, you don't have to work there to get the happy hour special. You just have to go there.
Collins does a very funny thing when they start confronting him. He makes the prayer hands like the emoji and puts it up to his face like, what's his face from Saturday Night Live talking about a club?
Like Stefan. Oh, please.
I thought he was laughing, but he was like, oh, God, you got me. It was a very strange way to react to a confrontation. But it is nice to know that he keeps the money in a coffee can that he cannot open. That was a good detail.
You're right. Collins talks about how like Flynn would slip him dirty money, and he was so guilt-struck that he couldn't spend it, and he stuck it in a coffee can. So he's out there standing in front of a hotel with his really stupid red blazer for his second job, and I think even the IAB guys were like, dude, spend the money.
Surprise bill? Need fast funds? CashNet USA can help. When you need money fast, be the hero.
Apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and get a fast decision. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times.
On March 28th, Universal Pictures, Blumhouse, and the director of The Shallows invite you to their new horror movie, The Woman in the Yard. In the morning, she appears. By noon, she gets closer. When night falls, she takes you. Who is this woman? Where did she come from? What does she want? And most importantly, when will she leave? Don't let her in. And don't miss The Woman in the Yard. Only in theaters March 28th.
All right, now let's take a look at the second half of this episode. Prosecutor Jack McCoy wants hard time for John Flynn, but is willing to make a deal if he testifies against Hector Garcia, who has just left the country.
I'm prepared to take the death penalty off the table in exchange for his testimony against Hector Garcia.
I'm not pleading to anything.
If you change your mind, I might even reduce the charge to murder, too.
Well, what's your case? A load of hearsay from a dope dealer's brother and a paid informant?
His partner's saddled up and ready to go.
Ready to lie.
With new evidence connecting Flynn to Garcia, McCoy is summoned to see Judge Hellman, head of the Hellman Commission on Police Corruption. He says they're giving Flynn a light sentence and lifetime probation in exchange for him naming dirty cops. Appearing in front of the commission, Flynn accuses Briscoe of stealing the drugs from the evidence locker. Briscoe defends himself, saying the day the drugs went missing, he was sleeping off a drunken bender, but shamefully admits he has no evidence to prove it. McCoy and Ross believe Lenny is clean and learn off the record that a now-deceased patrolman admitted that he stole the drugs from the locker. That's when Briscoe gets a visit from Betty, his former colleague and lover. The day that the drugs disappeared, it was her crack he was interested in.
Kevin!
Hey-ho.
Kevin! Jesus.
And though it will ruin her marriage, Betty appears before the commission to clear Lenny, but gets publicly ripped apart for being a liar and
a slut.
A slut.
Quote.
An enraged Briscoe convinces McCoy to let him wear a wire and confront Flynn, who admits he lied about the drugs because Lenny was disloyal. Briscoe's publicly exonerated, and Flynn's perjury means he's violated his lifetime parole on the murder charge. Briscoe goes to Flynn's home to make the arrest, but the disgraced cop shoots himself before he can be taken in. Okay, I have a very important canonical note.
Okay.
In this episode, the writers originally wanted Jill Hennessy to return at the end as Claire Kincaid with the information that would clear Briscoe.
Isn't she dead?
Well,
that's at this point in the show.
This is why it's important, right?
Yeah.
Episode 5 of the season after she's dead. I mean, it would have totally changed the series, right? If you'll recall, in the accident in Aftershock where she leaves the show, it was left unclear in that episode whether she was dead or alive.
Really?
She was unconscious, and Briscoe's like, they didn't say either way.
Right.
And even that, Hennessy, who left on her own, said she was open to coming back. And she didn't think her character was actually dead, when she left the series.
I love this idea.
But the writers said like they had asked Hennessy to come back for this episode, but she declined. So that sort of sealed the fate. They decided then that they're going to write Kincaid as dead. And they made references to her death in episode 1 and thereon. So then they decided we got to go to like a former lover will be Briscoe's
Jill.
alibi.
Oh, so wait, she wasn't gonna be Briscoe's alibi.
Well, she was going to give like some information.
Oh, okay.
She was going to be
sleeping with.
She was going to be the one that sort of saved
Yeah.
Briscoe's reputation. They had some idea that she like had some nugget or whatever. But I mean, I think it would be great if it was like, yeah, she was also fucking Briscoe
instead of just McCoy.
Just McCoy. The two of them, she could have been like jerking them off 2 at a time.
Stop it.
What?
Stop it.
I'm just saying,
It's
like
gross.
that would have been like a real twist.
No, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Although, Sonari famously, it took me years to believe that Kincaid was actually sleeping with McCoy. I never picked up on any of the very obvious signals that they were doing on the show, such as when they walk into their office and he's like tucking his shirt into his pants. I never picked up on any of it because I'm really stupid.
I never picked up on that McCoy had hooked up with multiple until they said that he hooked up with multiple. And by the way, just a small aside, since we're on the Law and Order podcast, is something I realized. I am from Chicago. So is Jack McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack McCoy was taught by the Jesuits. There's only one Jesuit school in the city of Chicago. And if his father
You went to the same school as Jack McCoy?
I went to St. Ignatius. The only school that Jack McCoy could have gone to. I almost know because his dad is a cop on the show.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that guy. I know that person. And that's one of the characters that I feel like over the run of the series, like his motivations and who he is and how he responds to things are very much what a Chicago child of a cop, child of an alcoholic dad, like all of the things that he would be. He's kind of the perfect character in my opinion.
Amazing.
So looking for evidence against Flynn, Ross and IAB break into Flynn's locker, and it is a treasure trove of HR violations.
Booze, skin magazines, box of rubbers.
Every day's a party for Detective Flynn.
You're like, hey, you better not take my skin mags and rubbers, rat squad.
Yeah, I love that. I love the little aside that I think would go in is what is it, like a lingerie catalog? How does she even know? Like, why is she looking? I don't know. It was like, how does she know so quickly what magazine that is? Anyway,
well, apparently it's because she's a customer. She takes the lingerie catalog.
This code number on the address label means he's ordered from them before.
Maybe he wanted to surprise his wife. You know a lot about their ordering procedures.
I'm wearing this right now.
I'm wearing this right now.
Yes.
And that detective grabbed the condom and was like, I'd like to be wearing this right now. But I'm still thinking about Ross and that underwear.
Oh, stop it.
Come on, you know that Kincaid always wore like one of those buckle corsets under her jacket with the shoulder pads, right?
This is what you're imagining.
Oh, yeah, now I'm thinking about it.
You're disgusting.
That's what she was going to come back and tell Briscoe.
You're disgusting.
So McCoy wants to get like this dirty cop because he doesn't want any dirty cops.
Let me tell you something, Jamie. When people stop trusting the police, we're back in the trees.
Oh, my God.
So I guess that's it for civilization, right? A-cab, give it to the monkeys.
I love how he's saying that as if no one has ever not trusted the police before this moment, right?
Well, Ross was having none of it, Sonari.
What is this, the 90s?
Ross wasn't having any of it. She's like, hey, more people distrust the cops than believe I'm wearing crotchless panties right now.
Stop it, Kevin. Oh, Mike, he's all yours, by the way, Sonari, if you want him.
Well, you know who's going to clean this up is Judge Hellman.
Ew.
Right? He's running this police corruption commission, and he looks like the snow miser. And so Flynn accuses Briscoe of also being dirty and having stolen drugs from an evidence locker at his old precinct. That means that now Briscoe has to go in front of the commission to defend himself, and he says that he wasn't there when the drugs were taken because he was sleeping off a bender.
I'm a recovering alcoholic.
So your defense is that you were drunk on the job?
I was asleep. I was drunk the night before.
Is there anyone who can corroborate your account?
No.
So when the judge asks if he was drunk on duty, he says, no, I was drunk the day before.
I love that.
So when Briscoe is sort of defending himself, is like, he's trying to explain like why he wasn't 100%. He says, I'm recovering alcoholic. not a recovering alcoholic. He's using the phrasing as if he's saying, I'm Italian-American. I'm recovering alcoholic. As opposed to, I'm dabbling alcoholic.
Yes, it's his identity is what
it's
you're
his
saying.
identity,
Yes,
right? Yes.
Yes. Good for him.
So Briscoe says, like, no one can vouch for his whereabouts, and he's just protecting Betty. And this is the woman he's having an affair with. So she comes forward, said she's going to testify, even if it ruins her marriage, and the judge just rips her up as a lying slut.
Mm-hmm.
On the day in question, when you were having illicit sexual relations with Detective Briscoe, where did your husband think you were?
I told him I was working.
You lied.
Yes.
Mrs. Abrams, have you had other illicit affairs?
It's so great how shocking that word has become.
Yeah. I mean,
love
it is legitimately shocking. And I don't know, that's like one of the things about Law and Order in retrospect. You're like, ooh, they had a lot of slut shaming. That's almost like, like you almost should like ring a bell for the amount of times like, and that Lenny is a slut. That's the other part.
Yeah.
That
right.
you realize in this episode.
That's right. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah. So Briscoe tries to clear his name by wearing a wire and confronting Flynn in this empty church. And he gets Flynn's admission that he lied, but he doesn't realize that he's just committed perjury, which violates that parole probation agreement. So Briscoe comes to the home to arrest him, and Flynn asks to use the bathroom where he's hidden a gun, and he shoots himself. A gun that he keeps in the family bathroom.
It seems like a very Flynn thing to do.
Right next to the hairdryer.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Don't confuse those.
I mean, did you guys telegraph that, I did, that Flynn knew that he was wearing a wire, even when he said he wasn't? Like, he knew, right?
I just want you to tell me that you know that I didn't steal those drugs. I just want to hear you say that.
Where should I direct the statement? To your chest or inside your thigh?
You want to check me for a wire? Go ahead.
He knew.
Yeah, well, I mean, when someone says, I just want you to say out loud.
I want you to say the thing, but like how neatly it comes. And just the idea of you don't just get a wire. Not in 1996. Right. So like, right. Or, you don't just get a wire. So that's
this is pre-Patriot Act here,
no,
right?
exactly. Like that's the thing. It's like this pre-Patriot Act. You don't just get a wire. And that someone would neatly confess. I don't even say my friends in text messages.
Exactly.
Don't even say full names of people.
That's right. You don't want to write it down.
You don't want to write it down. You want to. So like, it's like I remember being a kid and at the barbershop and being told the golden rule: don't admit anything. This is about marriage, by the way. Okay. You admitted what? No. Don't admit anything.
So at the end of the episode, Curtis tries to smooth things over with Briscoe by asking him to dinner.
Hey, Lenny, you want to go have some dinner?
I can't. I got to see an old friend. She's got a little situation with her family.
He's going to go try to fuck Betty.
No.
Like the last person that needs to be knocking on that door is the lover.
Briscoe is going to go to her house and have us talk with her husband and say it didn't mean anything, blah, blah. That's what he was planning to do.
That's what I would really appreciate. That's what I would want if somebody slept with my wife. And then the whole world knew. He's like, come on over. Oh, yeah, this will smooth it out.
No, that's what I imagined. I imagined he was going to try to smooth things over.
Sonari, he knows that Flynn isn't using those rubbers, so he's going to try to take them, right?
But also, like that's like a thing that I always thought of is like, who knows what's going on in a criminal trial?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's on the Channel 5 News. In explosive testimony, a cop's, ex-girlfriend admits, like, how would her husband know? Like, that was, like, I had a friend who testified in a federal case. And I was like, let me look this up like 3 years later.
Yes.
Hey, Larry, I saw Betty on TV this afternoon.
Also, isn't it weird that these commission hearings are being televised at all? Like, that's really freaking weird.
People are like, I don't want One Life to Live. I don't want Ryan's Hope. I don't want any of those soap operas. I just want this commission.
Yeah.
Now they've got drugs. They've got sex. It's way better than
All My Children.
All My Children.
Yep.
Surprise bill? Need fast funds? CashNet USA can help. When you need money fast, be the hero.
Apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and get a fast decision. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times.
On March 28th, Universal Pictures, Blumhouse, and the director of The Shallows invite you to their new horror movie, The Woman in the Yard. In the morning, she appears. By noon, she gets closer. When night falls, she takes you. Who is this woman? Where did she come from? What does she want? And most importantly, when will she leave? Don't let her in. And don't miss The Woman in the Yard. Only in theaters March 28th.
132 rooms, 157 suspects, one dead body, one wildly eccentric detective, one disastrous state dinner, and at the center of it all, a case unlike any other. The new Netflix series The Residents is a screwball whodunit set in the White House. From Shondaland, the series features an all-star cast led by Uzo Aduba as Cordelia Cupp, the most sought-after detective in the world. Watch The Residents, March 20th, only on Netflix.
All right, let's take a look at the real-life story that inspired this episode. It's time for Rip from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Rip from the Headlines.
Some inspiration for this story comes from the real-life police corruption case involving the theft of heroin from the famous French Connection bust. For decades, a sophisticated network trafficked drugs from Turkey through France and to North America. In the late 1960s, investigators on 3 continents began breaking up the operation and seizing huge quantities of heroin. The story was the basis of the Oscar-winning movie The French Connection. The traffickers had used the New York Mafia to distribute the drugs, and now their supply was locked up in a police evidence closet. So mobsters bribed coppers to let them into the storage room and replace bags of heroin with flour and cornstarch. On 6 occasions between 1969 and 1972, drugs were checked out by someone using the name of narcotics detective Joseph Nunziata. The deception wasn't discovered for years before Nunziata could be questioned. He died from a bullet through his heart. Authorities ruled it as a suicide, but the circumstances remained unclear. It's estimated $70 million of drugs from the French Connection was smuggled out. The scandal sparked police reforms into tightening evidence handling procedures.
So since we're on the subject of the French Connection, we have to acknowledge the passing of Gene Hackman,
R.I.P.,
who won the Oscar for his role as Popeye Doyle. I mean, that is so sad, but it's hard to say that his wife's passing was foreseeable, which ended up creating, the situation. Yeah, everything that happened after that. So the film, The French Connection, won 5 Oscars.
Wow.
It was the first R-rated film to win Best Picture. Midnight Cowboy won the year earlier, but that had originally come out with an X rating.
X, yeah.
Which was, really more like a hard R. They re-edited it for an R, but today, the X thing has gone away. The wild car chase where he's driving underneath the elevated train, it lasts a full 5 minutes on screen, no music. It was shot with a handheld camera without any permits at all.
Mm-hmm.
They just went for it. I am wondering, could you drive like that in Brooklyn today?
Isn't it true that he got into a real car accident while they were doing it? And they left it in the
scraped
movie?
some car, yeah,
exactly. And
exactly.
somebody actually drove in. It was like a little side thing, and they kept it in the movie. And I'm like, damn.
The baby carriage thing was an actor, but like people walking around and stuff like that. Yeah, it was all, I guess you'd call that improv.
Yeah.
The car was like, yes, and?
Yeah, you and I just went to that wedding in Kings County. I think we both know you cannot drive like that right now. It's just too congested.
So the mysterious figure around this corruption case is Detective Joseph Nunziata. Years before this all went down, when Ruben Morales visited the NYPD to research the book, The French Connection, Nunziata approached him and said that he should write a sequel about cops stealing heroin from the evidence closet. Sonari, when somebody shows you who they are, you believe them, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, that's like, there's so many shenanigans. I mean, like, there's so much room. I always have this theory that in Chicago, for instance, using that as an example, the reason that we think of it as being more corrupt because they just had better journalists.
That's true. That's true.
The Chicago Sun-Times bought a bar and then filled it with reporters.
Yeah.
And for like almost a year. And the idea was to see how actually corrupt things were. And surprise, surprise, they were thinking, like, let's open the doors and see how long it takes for, someone to shake us down. And it took an incredibly long time. I mean, it's hilarious. Less than an hour. And there was only, in the course of the whole story, they won a Pulitzer Prize, but they only found one city official, a building inspector.
Oh my God.
Who was like, your paperwork just isn't right. I can't do this because your paperwork. But everybody else was on the take. And that idea of like, how many bars got started because some guy somehow got all the liquor, or how many enterprises got started because of drug money from Vietnam and places like that. Like the 70s especially seems like before the RICO statutes really came into effect at Rudy Giuliani. It is incredible how much crime and corruption that was just right in people's face.
Yes.
And that's why you have all these interesting stories. I don't think that there's crime and it's organized, but not that organized.
Yeah, exactly.
Nunziata shot himself in...
You don't say that name as well as Sy does, just FYI.
Okay. Nunziata shot himself in the heart in his squad car the day that he was summoned to the U.S. Attorney's Office looking into this investigation. His wife claimed that he was murdered and wanted, what else? That pension. But authorities wanted her to explain the large amounts of money that came to her between the years 1969 and 1972. Then she dropped the whole fucking thing. He
probably was murdered, though. Let's be real.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know about 1972, but surely in 2025, it would be really easy to believe a cop would kill another cop just to shut him
It
up.
happens. It happened in Boston. It happens. You hear about that stuff all the time. Yeah.
So 261 pounds of heroin and 137 pounds of cocaine were smuggled out of the evidence locker between those 3 years. How was it discovered that the drugs had been stolen and replaced? Insects were starting to eat the bags of flour and cornstarch.
No.
And thus New Jersey pizza was born.
Kevin.
Well, that's going to do it for us. We want to thank our guest, Sonari Glinton. Sonari, where can our listeners follow you?
Well, you can follow me at vanillaisblack.substack.com. That's where I report on the intersection of the economy and culture. But the route to me is going to be on Substack. And I'm working on the Planet Money. But again, you can find out about it. vanillaisblack.substack.com.
It's awesome.
And Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
You can find me everywhere at Reb Lavoie.
And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, and Blue Sky. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Go to lawandorderpodcast.com and sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Are Their Stories was recorded in Studio C and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.
Comcast Business helps retailers become seamlessly restocking, frictionless paying favorite shopping destinations. It's how nationwide restaurants become touchscreen ordering, quick-serving eateries, and how hospitals become the patient-scanning, data-managing healthcare facilities that we all depend on. With leading networking and connectivity, advanced cybersecurity, and expert partnership, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business, powering possibilities. Restrictions apply.